Hey guys, it's Vandy back at it with another card fight Vanguard deck profile. So hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. Let's get started. Quick note, if I keep clearing my throat, ignore that. My throat hurts like hell because I just went on a recording marathon, so I'm kind of dying over here. So just ignore it if I constantly clear my throat. So anyways, let's get this started. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. Now let's go. Today's deck is my Dark Irregulars Gastille / Brufas deck. So it's basic, if you can guess. It's obviously focused on Gastille and his skill to try to proc off all four at once. But a lot of people, normally run Shaharot with this, and Shaharot can get you constant power as you're soul charging along with multi-attacks for it. Well, I don't really like that part of Shaharot because because of different archetypes, and yes, but Brufas is a different archetype as well. I don't necessarily like having those two in a deck together because just to me, it kind of seems like you're focusing more on the restanding when you counterblast for it. Doesn't seem as worth while Brufas can get you counterblast for soul. So I think that's better. And it's just better to sit on Brufas in my opinion than to shit on Shaharot because if you can't call down rear guard, Shaharot's kind of useless. But in Brufas, you can do whatever even without rear guards. So let's go ahead and get this started. First up, the starter is Vermilion Gatekeeper. 6k base, 10k shield, auto when rode upon you get to draw a card. Then if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 1 or greater, put a quick shield ticket into your hand. So you get a draw, which I for some reason keep top decking off of. And the quick shield, that can help you because, it's a quick shield ticket. And it's a 5k shield that you would normally use for discarding. But it has its purposes. So it's a good card. Now, for triggers, we got 4-draw PG, March Rabbit of Nightmare Land. So, it can be helpful. It's a draw. It's a PG. This deck, because it's not necessarily what people would call Turbo Gastille, where you just soul charge the ever-living shit out of the deck and then just constantly sit on Gastille and it slowly clocks off one turn at a time. But since it's not a Turbo soul charge deck, you can run draw PGs and not die from it. Just hopefully you don't pull them at inopportune times where all of them have ended up on bottom. Or, for me, when you draw all of them in your opening hand, you mulligan them back, and, well, not all of them in my opening hand, 2 of them in my opening hand, send them back, and then 2 more appear out of nowhere. And considering how close they were, it would have actually been all of them in my opening hand if the first card didn't exist. But anyways, so it can be helpful. And then we got 8 crits, Dark Knight of Nightmare Land at 4, and 4 Blitz Ritter. It can be any crits you want that aren't the crit sound. And finally, Alice of Nightmare Land, because why not put Alice of Nightmare Land as the heal? On to grade 1s. First up, 3 copies of Yellow Bolt. 8k base, 10k shield, auto rear guard. When it attacks a grade 2 or greater unit, soul charge 1. And this unit gets plus 5k power from the battle. So that's really good. It doesn't have to attack a Vanguard. It just has to attack grade 2 or greater. It can attack a rear. It can attack Van if you want. If it somehow attacked a Guardian, not sure if that's physically possible yet. But it could. If it could, it would soul charge and gets plus 5. So that's really good because it gets when you 1 soul. It hits force numbers now because it would be a 13k base unless they have MLB or Arc Saver or something that's base is 14k or greater. So that's really helpful. And then when rode upon, you may soul charge 2. If you soul charge 1 more trigger, you can draw out of it. So helpful. You get technically 3 soul from riding, 1 from riding this, and then 2 from its actual skill. And if you soul charge a trigger, you'll get to draw a card and possibly get more hand cards. So 3 copies. 4 copies of Variance Kill. 6k base, 10k shield. After your circle once per turn, rest this unit and put a card from your damage zone to drop zone and face soul. If you put it from damage, put the top card of your deck into damage zone face down. And if your soul has 3 or more Variance Kills, countercharge 1 and stand this unit. So I did not know that. I did not know it could get from drop zone. So many times I have abused this and I could have gotten it from drop because I've only been treating it from damage. Well, that's interesting. So, yeah, you could get it from damage, and you could get a free counter charge off. Well, either way, you get a counter charge. But, say something also ended up in drop, you could shove it to soul and get the ability off. And if you had 3 or more, you counter charge 1 and stand it. So, say 2 are in soul, 1's in damage, rest, shove the 1 in damage to soul, take a damage face down so you don't get the trigger off it. But because there are 3 or more copies of it in soul, counter charge and stand, or same thing if it's in drop. So, really helpful. 4 copies. And on to the other grade 1, Ironheart Assassin, the new one, who kind of does the same thing. 8k base, 10k shield, auto rear guard. When it attacks or boosts, you may soul charge 1. If you soul charge and you have 3 or more Ironheart Assassins, countercharge 1, and auto when rode upon you get to call it to rear. So, this thing is good. If you can't get Kill Tail off, you can at least get this, because when attacks are boost, you get a free soul charge out of it. Then if there are 3 or more, regardless, you get to countercharge, and auto when rode upon you get to call it. So, you normally want to ride this, Forerunner it back, get a bunch of copies, shove them on soul, and then get a bunch of effects off. Now, this deck is made to focus on the new cards and benefit them to their full extent. If you wanted like a real best possible version of this deck, I'd say maybe not do Ironheart Assassin, because I feel like Variant Killer... I feel like Variant Killer is better because it can get you a soul charge from drop as well. Like, yeah, it has less power, but it can get you from drop, and to a technical extent, not deck you out as fast as this thing can. Because granted, it can deck you out not that quickly, but still. And since Killer kind of does it better, you don't need Ironheart Assassin. So if you want a suggestion to switch Ironheart Assassin with, I'd say Doreen the Thruster. In fact, I've only ever built one deck that had Doreen the Thruster in it because I never thought it was useful. That one game, my very first grade 3 turn, I hit 50k over on every single attack because I had 3 Doreens in the back row and soul charged the shit out of my field. And I hit 50 over every single attack, and every single attack had to be guarded because all of them have double crit on them. So if you want to put Doreen in here, this is what you get rid of for it. Because I now have a newfound respect for Doreen and kind of want to shove it in. But this deck is, like I said, meant to focus on the new cards, so Ironheart Assassin still deserves a place here. Like I said, you want to switch him for Doreen? You got my okay. 4 copies of Demont Executioner moving on to grade 2s. His art looks so good. I have never looked at his art before, and it's really nice looking. It looks kind of prismatic. Prismatic's probably the wrong word, but right now that's all I can think about. Like glossy, I guess. Prismatic or glossy, one of those two. So 9k base, 5k shield. Auto Vanguard, when it attacks a grade 2 or greater, rearguard or Vanguard, this unit gets plus 5k power time of battle. So that's not really an ability I use that much, because for some reason, every time I use Dark Irregulars, I always go first. Why I'm not allowed to go second, I don't know. But also, the 5k doesn't really matter because most people I know, most people I play against, they will take the grade 2 attack. Like, there have only been a select few games where they didn't take the grade 2 attack, but also those select few games involved on hit abilities, and they didn't really want me to get those on hit abilities, so there'd be no point. And the other skill, Auto Vanguard or Rearguard, the one you do spam, when placed, Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 3, and if you Soul Charge 1 or more triggers, you get to draw a card. So basically like a Yellow Bolt, but you got a Counterblast for it, and that's it, and you get to Soul Charge 1 more. So that's really helpful. This is probably the reason why you deck yourself out so quickly. So try not to call these too often, despite of how you want to. Its skill isn't mandatory, so you don't have to do it, but who would waste like an on-play skill? So yeah, 4 copies of him. 4 copies of Emblem Master. 9k base, 5k shield. Continuous rearguard or guard circle. If your soul has 7 or more cards, this unit gets plus 5k power and plus 5k shield. So it's a 10k shield and 14k base at all times if you have 7 or more soul. Straight up, you ride Yellow Bolt. You got 1 card in soul already. You're right on top of it with, let's just say, screw it, Demonted. Yellow Bolt skill, you soul charge 2 and you draw. So that's already 4 soul. Skill of Demonted, counterblast, soul charge 3, draw. That's 7, right there. Demonted plus Yellow Bolt, 7 soul. This thing already meets the requirements before either of you get to grade 3. Really helpful. And then its other skill, Auto Vanguard or Rearguard when placed, Counterblast 1, search your deck and drop zone for up to a total of 3 cards with the same card name as one of your units and put them in your soul. If you search your deck, shuffle your deck. So that's also something I didn't know up until a few days ago, where it could also grab from the drop zone. I thought it can only grab from deck. But my friend, after accidentally not calling it a previous turn and shoving all of these into soul, and one of them ended up in damage, he healed it, and then called Emblem Master, got this back from drop. I realized that it could also search from drop at that very moment, and now here we are today, where I now know that this thing is slightly more useful than I ever thought it was. And to think all those times, I mean, I never actually had to call, even if I did have to pick from drop, there was never cases where I needed to, so it's not like it mattered, but my point still stands. So it's really useful. It can get you a 14k base and a 10k shield at all times, really easily in a Dark Regular deck of all things. And it can, deck thin for you by selective searching, and it could also get your stuff back from drop to soul for stuff like Variant Killer Tail and Ironheart Assassin, etc. So really good. So 4 copies. Next up, 4 copies of the last grade 2. Poisiantic Abductor. 9k base, 5k shield. Auto Vanguard or Rearguard when placed. Counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. Search your deck for up to 3 grade 2 or less normal units with the same card name as each other. Put 2 of them into soul and call the rest to rear and shuffle. So that's really useful. If, like, say for example, one of your Ironheart Assassins / Killer Tail ended up in soul, you could call this, counterblast, discard, send 2 more to soul, and then call the other one to the rear. Or you could use it just to once more selective soul stack. Since it says normal units, you could basically just trigger thin. I mean, this is Dark Regulars. The chances of you trigger thinning are the same chance of me pulling a front in any Excel deck that isn't Gold Paladin. Here's the numbers on that. It's physically impossible for me to pull a front unless it's the end of the game where it does not matter if you're going to... where it doesn't matter if I pull a front or not because you are going to lose regardless. It's just the front would be an extra flex, which it always happens at the very end, but never when I actually want it or need it. So 4 copies. And now into grade 3s. 2 copies of Number of Terror. 12k base, Protect Gift, Auto, Rear Guard, and Guard Circle. When placed, if your soul has 10 or more cards, this unit gets plus 10k power and 10k shield to end of turn. I have never called this to Guard Circle. I know it gets the 10k shield, so I know it could be useful, but I have never needed to call it to Guard Circle because of all the protects that I can possibly have, and because you don't need Protect 2 in this deck. I have all the PGs from Protect 1 and actual draw PGs, so I never actually need the 10k shield, and with all the quote-unquote drawing the deck does, with all the hand cards it gets, it doesn't need it. And then its other skill, which is also the reason why I don't call it to the Guard Circle, Auto Rear Guard. When it attacks, if your soul has 10 or more cards, once more, you pull up that combo I told you earlier with the search and writing thing. You only need 3 more after that, so it's not like it would be difficult. Put one of your other rear guards into soul and draw 2 cards. Yep. So you get to send stuff more to soul and draw more cards. So you don't really need to call it to Guard Circle in this deck. It's not that I forget it. I know it gets the 10k shield. I just never have to use it, so I never will use it. But the 10k power actually helps. This was also one of the things I used when I went for my big-ass 52k columns with my Bruf, because I know this was in the Brufas deck. This wasn't the Gastille deck that did this. It was something else. I think maybe it was an Emblem Master on board with it, and that's why I was able to hit like 54 number more or less with double crit. Doreen the Thruster can just do a lot of bullshit when you're doing a lot of selective soul stacking. So whenever you use Doreen the Thruster, make sure that you use something that can constantly send stuff to soul. Either way, really helpful card. You only need 2 of them, though, because you can easily get it out of deck with, like, Poisiantic Abductor and Brufas, who you just saw. Speaking of which, Brufas! Demonic Deep Phantasm Emperor, Brufas! I have never owned him in real life, always wanted to, and now he's like $3 a piece, and I'm kind of tempted to do that just so I can shove in my Dark Regulars deck and finally get rid of Master Fifth Element. 12k base, Protect Gift, Act Vanguard Circle once per turn. Counterblast 1, look at all of your deck, search up to 3 cards with the same card name from among them and reveal them. And if your soul had a card with the same card name as those cards, put up to 1 of them into your hand and put the rest into the soul. Shuffle your deck. So that is also, once more, another thing I did not know. Up until a few days ago, I didn't know shit about like half these skills. But apparently, originally I thought it was like Emblem Master, or no, just straight up Emblem Master, where you had to pick a rear guard first. Nope, you can just search the whole deck. You can see, oh yeah, you know what? I think I need that in soul, so I'm gonna pick that unit instead of just assuming what has left and take the whole time of counting, which is really nice because I can't really play Dark Irregulars that much on my computer because my keyboard doesn't work, so I can never enter my soul into area. But Brufas here, he helps because I can just look at my deck so I don't have to assume what's left and actually look through the soul to figure out. So that's really helpful. And then his other skill, Auto Vanguard Circle. When it attacks, if your soul has 2 or more grade 3s, you can literally get this on the first grade 3 turn. Counterblast, search for Brufas or any grade 3, shove them all to soul, boom, you got the skill off. But anyways, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it, and this unit gets the power and critical until the end of the battle, and it increases by that. And it includes the increased values too. Like say, for example, God forbid anyone would ever do this. They gave a crit to a rear guard for whatever ungodly reason. Let's just say it was a grade 3, which brings it in a 4 stack at that, so 23 double crit. you use this thing skill. This thing is 23 double crit, so it goes to 35 with triple crit, which is really good because that just puts crit pressure on your opponent. Or like they had force 2s on it because that's a permanent thing and that can just be abused to all amounts of extent. So really good grade 3. If you want, I say Shaharod's like the aggressive grade 3 to sit on. Brufas is the defensive grade 3 to sit on. So I would say like whatever fits your playstyle. If you want a defensive grade 3 to sit on, Brufas is your thing because it also selectively soul stacks and you could possibly get a Gastille out. Like say one of them ended up in soul and you might not be able to draw into them, just use this thing, counterblast, pick 3 more Gastilles, shove them on to soul, and because you had a Gastille and soul beforehand, you can just get one back, so you're effectively deck thinning and getting your ace grade 3 out of it. But at the same time, if you want the more aggressive grade 3, you could pick Shaharo because it gets you more power and multi-attack. So it's basically up to your preference. Are you more defensive or are you more aggressive? Are you safer or are you more reckless? That's pretty much how I see it. So 4 copies. And finally, the one card that we've all been waiting for and the thing that looks really cool with its artwork. Evil God Bishop Gastille at 4 copies. The blessing of the void plunders hope and silences the world. Okay, I'm sorry, I just had to do that. Anyways, 12k base. Just like with the other VRs I've done. So National Chaos is the only one where Chaos was actually the higher rarity of the grade 3s. Because the other one was a common. Great. This also, just like Valios was, or technically this video is coming out before Valios, so technically speaking, no, they're coming out at the same time. I forgot my schedule. Okay. I don't remember. Anyways, point is, Brufas is a VR and Gastille is a, triple rare, so technically the main grade 3 is actually the lower rarity, unlike most cases. Or at least that's what I've seen. But anyways, 12k base. And technically 1 skill, but at the same time, it's technically 5 different skills at once if you count each interval. So Auto Vanguard, at the beginning of the battle phase, counterblast 1, draw a card, and your opponent chooses the following effects for every 5 cards in Soul. You perform the chosen effects in any order. Each effect can only be chosen once. All of your front row units get +1 crit till end of turn. Your opponent's Vanguard power increases or decreases to 1 until end of turn. All of your opponent's auto abilities do not activate until end of turn, and your opponent chooses a card from his or her hand and puts it into their damage zone face down. So let's go over each of these of how they're broken. So first off, the first skill. You get a draw out of it for a counterblast. That's not really a good thing. That's like Master Swordsman Nightstorm from Grand Blue, where it's just on attack if you have 10 or more cards and drop, counterblast to draw. Kind of like that, but its other effect is better. So it lets your opponent pick their suicide method, not you, which is funny, because that means the opponent gets to pick how they die, which is always enjoyable when they can say, oh, it's your fault that I lost, not my deck's fault. Well, no, technically it is your fault this time, because you're the one that picked the fucking skill. But anyways, so either you get the crit for the front row, which means everything's hitting like force 2 numbers, so your opponent can't really do shit about that. Their power decreases to 1 till end of turn. Yeah, they can damage check stuff. This isn't like Valios where it locks it down, but still. So they're 1k power, which is bullyment to everything. And then all the auto abilities don't activate, so their PGs become useless. And finally, or just any abilities in general that activate on guard circle. And your opponent chooses a card from their hand and puts it to damage, so that's pretty self-explanatory. And since that's not damage restricted like every other card is, you can kill them when they're at 5 with this. So it's obviously best to get off the 20k soul, the 20 soul as possible, which is why I think Brufas is a better thing to sit on, unlike Shaharo, because Shaharo doesn't soul charge, Brufas does. So I think Brufas is better to sit on for this case, but at the same time, it does a lot. Like, I say, regardless of your situation, unless you don't, if you have a PG in hand, I suggest the options that you pick for this, regardless of what your situation is you let them get the crit and the power. You let them take your power down to 1, and you let them get a front row crit. Because as long as you got that PG, you're fine. If you do not have a PG, power to 1 and auto abilities nullify. Because the auto abilities won't matter if you don't have a PG. So nullify your auto abilities, nullify the bring your power to 1. Actually, no. Yeah, bring your power to 1, screw the extra crit, and that. So when you get to pick either one of those 2 options, if they're at 15 soul, obviously you kind of want to avoid the face down damage, unless he's got a bunch of PGs, and in that case, let him have it. But if they're at 20 or more soul, yeah, then you're screwed. So with this deck in particular, it's easy to reach. It's definitely easy to reach like the 10 soul on first grade 3 turn. You might even reach 15 soul on first grade 3 turn. If not that, you'll be like 1 off. And then when you ride this, you'll definitely get the 15 soul. So it's hard to get the 20 soul, but it's really easy to get 15. So you can always get 3 abilities off. So 4 copies of Gastille. And then on to the gifts. We only have 6 gifts each because there are only 6 cards in this deck with gift markers, so there'd be no point in having more. So pretty much Protect 1 is just another PG, and then Protect 2, if it's placed on a rear guard, gets plus 5k power and 10k shield when it intercepts. So if you put it on Emblem Master, it's a 19k base and a 20k shield. But I do just suggest Protect 1 because Protect 2 doesn't really do much, especially if you're playing against a deck that can murder rear guards. And almost every deck can do it. Dark Irregulars can do it because I own a card that can literally retire something. Royal Paladin does it. Shadows definitely do it. Kagero is the definition of murdering the opponent's rear guard, and so is Narukami. Genesis can do it? Yeah, Genesis can do it. What else can do it? Mega Colony can cradle things, which just make them useless in general, so it's not like that would help at all. And there's every deck except for maybe Bermuda's. But at the same time, Bermuda bounces the opponent's rear guard, so technically speaking, every deck involves some way of screwing over Protect 2. So you should only use Protect 1 with this deck. It's also the reason why you pick Brufas, so that you can just stall out on it and then just protect your way to victory. Get the joke that I definitely made on purpose, totally didn't just come out on its own. But yeah, so pick Protect 1, you can pick Protect 2 if you want to just to rush the opponent, but Protect 1 is better. And then Quick Shield. When one of your units is attacked, you get the plus 5k power to end the battle. Why it's not an actual 5k shield, I will never understand. This is not an auto ability, if I'm correct. So, this doesn't get screwed over by Gastille. But at the same time, I don't know, because I don't put in the comments because I actually don't know this. If for Gastille, I know if you put a quick shield or a protect gift face up into the damage zone, you get to heal it. But if you put it face down, does it still get the heal or does it actually just stay there? Because that is actually a question and a way to screw over Gastille. Because in this deck, you can keep the quick shield. I mean, I did actually keep a quick shield for the longest time because I did not know it was in my hand because it was covered up by everything else. So I didn't know it was a quick shield in there until after the game ended and I looked at it and I was like, oh shit, I had a quick shield that whole time? Fuck me. But yeah. Well, that was the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, there are many ways to build this. You can use Shahar with it. You can use Brufas with it. I have seen one build with Dantarian with it, and that was very interesting. It's not a bad interesting, but that's not a good interesting either. So, yeah, play the deck how you would play it, whether you're aggressive or defensive or, just in the middle, which I don't think there is a middle. And if you want to build it solely based around Gastille, you can. In fact, if you want my help with building, a deck solely based around Gastille like nothing else, fuck it, do it. And I'll help you with that. I'll willingly do it. And I'll even do a deck profile on my channel with it, because... okay, that was the deck, so I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join to the Patreon. We have a Discord now, so you can join that. We have a Twitch, so you can go follow, subscribe, whatever you want to do to that. And my second channel will debut next week. I'm questioning that statement because that might not happen. I hope it happens. I kind of need Amazon not to fuck me right now. It's either this week or it's either when this video comes out it's debuting or next week it's debuting. One of the two. Hopefully this week when this video goes up. Either way. So that's it. See you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.